Now that Mr. Long's here, we can start the meeting. It's 2 o'clock. I'd like to call to order the June 21st meeting of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust. Next item on the agenda is the approval of minutes of the June 7th meeting. They're in your packet. Any questions or comments? Is there a motion for approval? Please vote. And it passes unanimously. Item 3 is the consent docket. There are 14 items on the consent docket. They include some contract awards, some pricing agreements. There's a couple of easements on there. Are there any items off the consent docket that any of the trustees would like to discuss individually? Hearing none, is there a motion for approval of the consent docket? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes. Next up there are no concurrent docket items. There are no emergency construction contract items. So we move to item 6, items for individual consideration. And item A is a contract of the section of the Atoka Pipeline. Mr. General Manager.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This section is immediately north of Lake Atoka. If I'm not mistaken, it runs about 13 miles, almost 14 miles. We would ask your trust consideration to award this contract to Oscar Renda.
So it's my understanding that the pipe is not a part of this contract.
It is not. We purchased the pipe several years ago, so this is construction only.
Yeah. So as we account for this, it might be helpful if we could at least put an estimate in for what the pipe cost would be, so as we go forward, so we can get an idea of what the total cost of the section of pipe would be.
Will do. Just to note, the original bid included steel index.
Right.
So we have a baseline for the pipe. The index was about $800 a ton. Currently, it's about $1,000 a ton. If you recall my last report, it had gone up to about $2,000 a ton. So it is getting a little better, but that is about 25% higher than our original cost, which was about $160 million. So that is still a significant increase on our projected costs for the pipeline. The good thing is, this segment, the engineer's estimate was quite a bit higher than the bid that came in, so we're really happy with this bid.
Very good. Any questions regarding the contract? Seeing none, is there a motion for approval? We have a motion and a second. Please vote. And it passes unanimously. The next item I will read in its entirety because of what the item is, and so bear with me because it's a little bit lengthy. It's a resolution of the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust authorizing and approving the issuance of its utility system revenue refunding bonds in one or more series in the aggregate principal amount of not to exceed $300 million, collectively the bonds. Waiving competitive bidding for the sale of the bonds, authorizing and approving the negotiated sale of the bonds at a price less than par, establishing parameters for the discount and interest rates on the bonds, approving the solicitation for and use of the bonds insurance and or reserve surety or insurance policy, authorizing certificates of determination, setting forth the underwriter's discount, the original issue discount, interest rates, redemption provisions, size and maturities of the bonds, approving a bond purchase agreement with respect to the sale of the bonds and authorizing and directing execution thereof by the chairman or vice chairman, authorizing and approving the execution of supplemental bond indentures by and between the Oklahoma City Water Utilities Trust and the trustee bank, whereby Aquit authorizes the issuance and delivery of the bonds and amends certain provisions of the amended and restated general bond indenture, providing that the organizational document creating Aquit is subject to the provisions of said bond indenture, ratifying and confirming lease agreements as amended by and between the City of Oklahoma City and Aquit, pursuant to the water, sanitary sewer, and solid waste management systems, and approving and authorizing an extension of lease, approving and authorizing the form of the preliminary official statement, and final official statement pertaining to the bonds, and authorizing the distribution of the same, authorizing the chairman or vice chairman to approve any corrections of said preliminary and final official documents, and authorizing the distribution thereof, authorizing the documents, certificates, representations, instructions, and letters necessary or incidental to the issuance of such bonds, including, but not by way of limitation, a continuing disclosure agreement, bond and insurance, and/or surety documents as deemed necessary by general manager or designee, and escrow deposits agreement, and authorizing and directing the execution and delivering of the bonds, requesting and directing BancFirst as trustee bank to authenticate the bonds, and containing other provisions related thereto. Now, this resolution will require 4 affirmative votes this afternoon. It was brought forth to council this morning, and because of the number of council members that were there were not enough to approve the document this morning, so it was not approved. So we're going to approve it this afternoon, and it will be brought back to the council on January 5th.
July. You said January.
Yeah, July 5th.
It's the first of some year.
Yeah,
I get it.
July 5th for their approval. This is kind of a big deal. Good savings is available for the trust. And Mr. Trustee, or Mr. General, you're General Manager.
I got promoted.
Yeah, no, not really.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This morning, the council did approve the posting of the offer statement so that we could move forward with the schedule as we initially intended. If we advertise, we can take it to the council for consideration on the 5th. It will not slow down the process, and we're hoping to sell the bonds before the market shifts again. So it's important that we follow this tight schedule, and we would appreciate consideration accordingly.
Are there questions? See, we have some distinguished associates in the audience this afternoon to answer any questions that we might have. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the resolution? We have a motion, a second. Please vote. And it's approved 5-0 unanimously. The motion passes. Thank you. Items from trustees. General Manager reports.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would be remiss if I didn't mention today is our esteemed legal counsel's birthday.
No.
So happy birthday,
Thank you.
Mr. Keith. Yeah. Secondly, the pro forma for this point in time in our fiscal year, expenses and revenues are on target. We should have the year-end pro forma coming up in the next month or so. All but Draper, the lakes are full, maybe a little above full. We do have the full capacity of the Atoka Pump Station now. Unfortunately, we're treating a lot more water than we were through the less warm months, and the differential seems to be evaporating as quickly as we can get it in the lake. We're holding steady, but we're not gaining. So hopefully we'll get the lake progressing towards full sooner than later. If we can get a little reprieve from the weather, maybe that'll happen. With that, I have nothing else to report, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions for Mr. Browning? I'm not aware of any citizens that have signed up to speak this afternoon. There's no further business. We are adjourned.